Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you are watching on YouTube, you can find out more about us at officehours.global. First hour is general discussion about media and virtual production. Second hour is usually something we want to spend a little bit more time on. We don't broadcast the second hour of Saturday. It is actually 2 more hours for education, and we do that only on Zoom. But of course, we have the infamous Super Saturday coming up today. And to find out more about that, Dennis is going to play a little video for you.
Hello, and welcome to Super Saturday. The day starts at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with an hour of live Q&A. From office hours, immediately followed by an education hour, available only on Zoom. Then, at 11 a.m., Shannon Cooper hosts the Office Hours cooking show, where she, Alex Lindsay, and Dennis Champion Walker cook along with Damyanti Gajjar, where they will be making Mexican rice. At midday, Todd Reynolds brings us a live concert from his studio in North Adams, Massachusetts. Then at 1 p.m., we cross to the Accidental Theater in Belfast for an hour of entertainment in the Belfast Method. And at 2 p.m., we bring you a special edition of Conversations with Tony Mobley, featuring Todd Reynolds, Hasmukh Gajjar, and Richard Lavery. And that's what's coming up today on Super Saturday. Be there or be lunch.
I did not see that coming.
Me neither.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to Super Saturday and our first hour of questions. Just a reminder that you, our audience, our producers, are asking our questions, and you're also voting on those questions so that we can answer what matters to you most. And then we'll move into the education hour. So let's go ahead and get started with our first question.
First question up is from George Butters from Halifax. As we get deeper and deeper into distributed productions, distributed companies, and distributed personal relationships, where exactly is here?
Alex.
I think the best way to define here would be probably it is where we're passionate. You know, what we love to do. We're going to be able to basically, what we're moving towards is a future where we aggregate, and where here is our interests. You know, and not our, you know, we're not limited by geographic region or trying to find people that are interested in what we're interested in just in our little square, but pretty much anywhere else in the world. And I think that connection between us is going to become more and more seamless as we go forward.
Jonas.
I found that even in talking to a lot of colleagues that I work with for productions, here's always the place that they connect from. So like, it can be their kitchen table if they just have Unity there. It can be their work desk if they are there. But I noticed that at one point, it's all people just say, I'm here. And all I mean is I'm available to connect to you right now. And that's a new definition of here, because here can be wherever you can talk to.
Rupert.
And here is really just a moment in time. It may be a place and a moment in time and a certain set of circumstances today, and that may be different in a period of time and in different times in the future.
That's true. All right, next question.
TJ Asher from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is there a way to share a video, including audio, out of the same computer to which I have my camera and microphone connected, or do I need to use a separate computer and pull audio and video into my ATEM Mini Pro?
Rupert.
Well, TJ, can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think there's a couple ways I could read that question.
Sure. So I see a lot of times people will be sharing, you know, Chris Fenwick is a good example. Sometimes he'll just bring in audio and video right directly into the Zoom meeting here without seeming to change anything. So it seems like he's doing something on a switcher, but, you know, is he using OBS or something behind the scenes? So, you know, I'm just trying to figure out if I want to share a video out to everybody right now, how would I go about doing that?
Okay, so a video clip, not a video source from another.
Correct. A video clip that I have on my computer. Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could do that with a software switcher, or if you have a software switcher like OBS or Mimo Live or something like that, load the clip up in there and use use that as a virtual input into Zoom and play the video out. I guess that would be a software, or if you have an ATEM, you could use something like a PlayLB and have that clip loaded on there and play it through the ATEM when you cut to that source. And since Zoom will be seeing that as an input, it'll play out as if you have not changed anything into Zoom. I was thinking that question was more along how do you share the output of your computer to two destinations? So that's kind of where I was going with it initially.
Jeffrey?
So yeah, you can definitely screen scrape from there. That's what I used to do all the time when I showed anything. Like I have a 3-monitor system on my computer. So I have the main monitor, which is right here. I have my confidence monitor, which is right here, where I see all of you guys, and then I have the third monitor where I can review things, go on web pages and things like that. So I can bring that up. That's this is actually my other computer that streams 24/7 to my channel here. As you can see, I'm still doing my 3D printing and things like that, and that's all being seen on that third monitor. And that's where the those little dummy HDMI plugs come in very handy. If you don't want to hook up another monitor, you can just plug it in and then it creates another screen. You use something like OBS, Wirecast, vMix to bring that screen in, and then of course the virtual cable will then take it into Zoom.
Peter?
I just happen to know that Chris is a user of Mimo Live, like I am, because he's helped me figure out a few things, and he definitely uses that to bring in video over the shoulder or just a separate video full screen if he wants to. All depends, because everything appears as a virtual camera at that point, as long as your main camera is coming in through Mimo Live as well.
And Rupert?
Just I think there's a trick part to this question. It's including audio. So some of the software switching routes that we've discussed won't necessarily handle audio by default, because in Zoom, for example, your audio input is likely to be set to your microphone or your audio interface. And so you'd need to ensure that whatever method you're using is also routing audio into your audio bus, whatever that is, and that's going into Zoom. Otherwise, you won't capture the audio from your video clip.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think about that on the PC side, not on the Mac side as much. So what I would probably end up doing instead is actually route it out to a mixer, bring it back in. That would save. But yeah, you can definitely use something like Audio Hijack to route it back in.
All right, next question.
JB in Wisconsin asks the question, output one of my 8-month-old ATEM Extreme ISO died today. I was on a Zoom call when my multiview went black. I've confirmed that it isn't the cable or the monitor. Has anyone on the panel had a failure like this? How good is the Blackmagic warranty?
Alex?
In general, if you're in warranty with Blackmagic, it's been very good for me. So if there's something wrong, we usually get it handled pretty quickly in warranty, and even a little out of warranty, we've had some success, but it depends on what it is. So I haven't had any trouble if it's still in warranty to have it. Generally, Blackmagic replaces things. Like they don't really try to fix it. That's been my experience.
Jonas?
The one point where I have seen a Blackmagic burn out its output is if you loop it back in and then you have a loop somewhere, even if you don't show it on your multiview, just having that loop can damage your output sometimes, and then you won't get it back then.
Jeffrey?
I had a Video Assist, the first generation Video Assist, where the SD card stopped working. I called into support and they said, if anything, you send it to us and we can at least deduce what the problem is, and then you can make the decision at that point to repair or buy new. And of course that's going to cost, but they're more than willing to support anything that's out of warranty.
All right, next question.
Nawal Galler of Argentina wants to know, I want to thank the guy for his last advice on setting up a director cut preview using SRT and NDI. I receive my PTZ cameras via SRTminiserver and convert to NDI to the Kiloview multiview. Works great.
Guy?
Yeah, this is referencing a question earlier in the week where we can get a multi-view out of a data video. I think it was an HS1600 switcher, but the cameras had SRT out, so we devised a way to send SRT up and then convert it to NDI, then kick it over to a Kiloview so you could see all the cameras. So sounds like it worked. Cool.
Yay. All right, next question.
Jason Robershaw of Sarasota, Florida. New to Twitch, where to begin? Twitch recently started a channel specifically for aquarium, zoos, and animal cams. Suggestions for zoos and nonprofits entering this space for the first time?
Oh, that sounds very exciting. Jason?
Yeah, so this is something new. The Association of Zoos and Aquariums have gotten this, and apparently the culture on Twitch is to have lots of live and interactive stuff like gameplay, and things like animal cams and bird feeder cams aren't always as popular. But we're working with our communications folks to figure out how we bring things like our shark cam and other things to that audience, but I don't want to fall into any obvious pitfalls with the culture and moderation. So looking for any advice.
Jonas?
So my all-time favorite animal cam is Dash Ducks, because what they manage to do, it's interactive. So if I subscribe to this channel, I suddenly get special treats. One time a day, I'm able to feed the ducks with a chat command, which is highly addictive. You're like, oh, I haven't fed the ducks today. It's really cool. And you can also pay extra bits to give them like a bit more feed. And the cool thing is they also enable you to cut around which camera is where. So if I want to feed the ducks, I can cut to a specific camera that then perfectly frames how they eat it. And then I also can remotely control the PT set. And I'm guessing they make a bunch of money, and it's really nice just having this open if you work alone, because it just sounds, and it's 240 people are watching it right now. I would say moderation-wise, heavily rely on bots. Bots are one of the biggest things on Twitch to use. It's great, and yeah, I would use bots and a lot of these commands, and they now have something called channel points if you don't want to monetize it, but still want it to gamify it a bit. So you can gain channel points by watching a channel, and then you can redeem them. And for example, they have here all these redeems. If I watched long enough, I can now change a specific emoji, and just check them out. You can change everything remotely. It's amazing.
I'm in love. I can't wait for this to be over so I can go feed the ducks.
You feed the ducks. I was like, whoever thought of that is so genius. Like that's all I was. It's like it's just genius.
How do they keep the ducks from getting fat though? That's my only question. Like,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. Are they like weight reduction treats?
Gosh.
I don't know. Anyway, totally. All right, Alex.
Yeah, I would definitely things I would think about there is number one is have thick skin. Comments on Twitch can be exciting, and the other thing is that I guess what I would say from our experience with Twitch is do find things that you can do. Like Jonas really illustrated just an incredible way to just have it be nothing you have to really manage, but you have interactivity. People have something to do with it. But I do think it wouldn't hurt to have shows every once in a while. And what you want to do is during that live stream that's just running all the time, have some little graphic up there that tells people that, have a countdown clock to your next time when you're actually going to talk to people and cut through it and everything else, so people know that it's there. And you can put little pieces of there. But I would do that just so people know what's coming up. It seems like Twitch is our experience has been that they're pretty okay with lots of graphics sitting on top of the screen. So not you don't have to go crazy, but you can definitely throw things on the screen and people aren't going to mind. They're kind of used to it.
Thanks. That's great.
Rupert?
I would say that remote control cameras would definitely be a nice feature if ideally for the end users, but you can get some tug of war type situations over controls there. If you don't choose to give it to the end users, make sure that at least you can remote control the cameras. So if the animals wander off when you're not there, you can dial in and realign the cameras or do whatever. And it may also be helpful to include some information there of what the habits of the animals are. You can include what your events are, but maybe just sort of say, hey, the animals come out at dawn or whatever it is, whatever their habits are, so the folks know what to watch out for, and make sure you use the opportunity to capture your audience for your weekly event or your monthly event or whatever it is that you do.
Jeffrey. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So I'll use the previous question to show you what I've got for my channel. So here it is. So that channel is going to my Twitch channel here. There are ways to do panels on below. So always think about what you're going to put in for your panels. There's a lot of third-party apps that you want to watch for and read up on before you start using it. Because sorry about the transition, forgot about that. But you want to have those be able to have some good panels that'll give you information. And you can also think about actually using something like Restream or StreamYard or something like that to do a dual stream. So it's not only on Twitch, but also on YouTube, because YouTube will allow you to do a 24/7, just the same thing. And as for those graphics, yeah, they don't mind them. And you can even use your Stream Deck every now and then. You can set those up for the Twitch stuff where you just press a button and it'll say, hey, this person just joined, or this we're at this many followers or anything like that, and just have some interactivity there.
Alex?
One thing I was thinking about is that probably during feedings or anything else that you're going to do, giving people like a time that's going to happen and being relatively precise about that. If you're going to have divers out there, you're going to feed them, you're going to do something else, that's a great time to let people know when it's coming. When it's going to actually happen. I was thinking about, we were in a zoo in Australia. They fed the Tasmanian devils, and the Tasmanian devils are really boring until they throw meat in there, and then they're really exciting, and then they're really boring again. So it would be useful. It'd be useful to tell us when that's actually going to happen.
Jonas?
And one last piece of advice: the chat can be a bit unwieldy sometimes. So 2 things you can do there is enable subscriber mode only, which already cuts most people off that just want to spam something in chat, because they can't, they have to wait 5 minutes. And for most people that just like to spam, that's too much of a commitment. And the other thing that I don't know how it works, and there's huge channels that do it, emoji only. People like to communicate with emojis only on Twitch, and it's the funnest thing to see. And if you're moderating one of those, you're like, what am I doing right now? But it's kind of works. And then you could, if you have 2 animals, you could do a wall, like create a little PNG version of them and upload them as emoji, and people can vote on which is the animal of the day. And then everybody who voted for that animal gets like a few more credits to cut to that specific animal or something, and it gets put on screen. When somebody subscribes, you put them on screen real quick. They really like interactivity in that way.
Very cool. All right, next question.
Panelist TJ Asher from Minneapolis, Minnesota, asks the question, now that Office Hours is officially a 501c3 corporation, what does that mean for the future of this collective?
Alex?
Happened last night. I got the announcement. I think I was talking about in Office Hours. So we've been waiting for a good 3 or 4 months for that to go through. So we can now take donations. We have a couple corporate partners that may be interested in donating a little bit of money to help us keep going. At some point, we'll put up a thing where people can chip in. I'm not going to have it. We're not going to take things away from people. To subscribe or whatever. But it means that it just means that things are a lot easier. So we'll figure it out. I mean, we want to basically make it available to folks who want to chip in so that we can accelerate what we're doing, go a little faster, have a little bit more support. The AWS stuff starts to add up that we're doing some of the testing, and it'll allow us to equip faster. But I think that we're, just lets us do a lot more now. There's been a lot of folks that have wanted to contribute, and I've said, you can't do it until I have a bucket for it. So we'll probably put something up if people want to do something before the end of the year. Some people want to use up corporate dollars or whatever. So we'll probably have some place for people to do that before the end of the year. And then, but it's, again, people shouldn't think that it's suddenly going to be everyone's paying for everything. It's it just gives us a tool to a bucket that means that I'm not paying taxes on it. That is because it's all going to what we're doing. So, and we have a great, we'll talk more about it, but we have a great structure set up, a good board, and we'll be very accountable with it, and we'll make sure everybody knows what we're doing. Anyway, that's it. Go ahead. Oh, good, Rupert. Sorry.
Since the sort of organization exists now, and there's a website and so on, might we see a presence on things like LinkedIn in terms of like an organization or other platforms like that?
Yeah, we're yes. Every week I think that my life will slow down, and it hasn't. So but this helps us kind of start putting things into place that this will help us put a bunch of things in place, and so we'll work on that. But I definitely want to have. I got to work with Jeffrey to get the YouTube and channel. The channel's there; it just hasn't been turned on. So we'll get a lot of the YouTube presence, Facebook presence, LinkedIn presence, Twitter presence. All those things are going to start getting turned on, as we go through the next month or so. So by end of January, you should see most of them. Sorry, you should see most of them active.
Cool. All right, next question.
From Michael Andreas from Olathe, Kansas. During after hours, I put the spotlight on the OH 2.01 pane of someone sharing his desktop. That view is much less clear than the original view. Should Office Hours 2.01 be up to full performance at this point?
Alex?
I think I would look at I don't know if that's necessarily, that's the ingest coming back into it, and it may not, it may have a resolution issue. I haven't seen any resolution issues in the stream to YouTube. So I think that the outputs are working fine. I think the input back in may be a lower resolution at times, especially when you spotlight it.
All right, next question.
Guy Cochran, panelist from Seattle, USA. How is Super Saturday being produced?
Jonas.
So we use a couple of technologies. It's all distributed. We don't have one clear point. For example, we use the cloud to combine all the different feeds from the different teams. But for example, cooking is done over Zoom and then some remote control of the panelists' ATEM that will be cooked. Then we cross over to Todd Reynolds, who also work remotely and send everything to Jim. Jim sends it out to me and I'll send it out to the different channels. Then Accidental is the same Belfasting that we have been doing for a while now. And then we have conversations with Tony Mobley also sitting in the cloud. It's a bunch of technologies. For the backhaul, we use SRT with a 1 second latency just to make sure that none of those precious frames from the different teams get lost. And we have a Unity server where we are able to communicate with each other.
Cool. All right, next question.
And it comes from Paul Wallace in the capital of Texas, Austin. How do you tilt a Google map in satellite view using only your keyboard?
All right, so I'm going to drop this in the chat, but Laura wanted me to share with you guys that there are shortcut actions. So the shortcut actions that you would use are shift and the up arrow to tilt up, the shift down arrow to tilt down, control shift N to reset your view, and control shift U to reset the tilt. So those are all the accessibility. And she also has a link. So I'm going to drop that in the chat now. And then Sam. Oh, we can't hear you, Sam.
Through my testing in the last few minutes, it seems like those shortcuts to rotate and tilt only work in Google Earth, not on Google Maps.
Oh, that's good. She had a link to the Google Maps keyboard shortcut, so maybe there's something missing from that. What about Rupert?
Yeah, I was just testing in the web-based version of Google Earth, so there may be that distinction, but those keyboard shortcuts certainly work there.
All right. Next question.
Panelist TJ Asher, Minneapolis, Minnesota, addresses panelist Jeffrey, who share the make model of the 3D printer he has had running 24/7 for weeks on end.
Jeffrey. Oh, did we lose him?
Sorry, the sun came out. I had to fix it. Anyway, so I'm using the Ender 3 V2, which is a right. Nope, that wrong one. So this is the Ender 3 V2. It's probably one of the best easy startup type printers you can get if you're really getting into 3D printing. It's got a lot of features, but it's also got a lot of upgradability. So when I did it, I had a friend that had this printer, and I talked to him about it and got a lot of great ideas. The one thing is make sure that you change the springs on it to begin with on the bed, so it's got a stronger spring on it. Also, they have what's called the extruder, the Bowden tube, and the hot end. And those things probably want to be looked at and changed out. And then, of course, what's called the double Z index. So it comes down on a bolt type system that brings it up and down. And having the second Z index on there also helps keep the Z index bar straight and level so it can go up and down. So there's a lot of other mods, and a lot of mods you can actually 3D print yourself and get it to go from there. So it takes a lot of work, and as one person said, don't think of it as a job, always think of it as a hobby, and you'll never be disappointed in how your 3D prints turn out, because there's been times where I go to 3D printing something and things just go completely cattywampus on me, and I just have to take that step back, figure out how things work, check the software, check all the bed leveling and stuff like that, and then I'm doing some great prints. I've been doing a lot of holiday stuff, and then yesterday, in preparation for CES, I made the Rode microphone arm extension for a handheld if I decide to use it, but I don't know, it kind of looks a little cheap, so I probably won't use it, but at least I can test it out and didn't have to pay for anything. It's about $1 worth of filament.
All right, cool. Just wanted to check in with our producers. We're getting low on questions, people, and it's too early for that. And we'll go off the rails completely if you don't moderate us. So make sure that you're dropping those into Mukana and voting on them so that we can chat with you. All right, let's go on to our next question.
Please do add those questions. This comes from Alex Lindsay from Novato, California. He says, I have a Blackmagic Video Assist and can't seem to figure out how to turn off the zebras. Any idea?
Jonas.
I'm just gonna point out how I do it, and then hopefully that's what you've been missing.
Shake it really hard. Do you just shake it?
No, it's in monitor, and then you need to go to the zebra. There should be a setting right there.
Okay, I'll take a look. I haven't seen that window in it.
It's in the third row. The first one, zebra on off.
Okay, I'll go take a look at it again.
All right, Roscoe.
And if that's not enough, I put a YouTube video in from our own John Barker, who will point to, that kind of stuff. And if it's not there, then go to the setup, swipe sideways, go to the setup, and you can turn stuff on and off completely.
Because I've been going through all those things, and I just don't see those pages. And I'm actually realized it's not the new 12K; it's an older Blackmagic Assist, and I was thinking it was a 12K, but it's not. And I just can't find, I know that there's a button somewhere in there that says turn the zebra off, and I just haven't been able to find it. So I'll
feed the zebras, feed the zebras.
Feed them and maybe they'll go away. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right, next question.
Tim McCullough from Wichita, Kansas. When will tech's participation return to after hours? There were mentions of security issues, but no security issues were ever explained or demonstrated.
Rupert?
The text participation is in Mukana, and there's also the after hours channels in Discord.
And Alex?
Yes, the text participation's in Mukana. So you can use Mukana the whole time. So feel free to use that. That's what we're going to keep that focused.
Okay, and it's the same Mukana, right? There's the office hours
same
and
one.
the after
it just
hours.
runs
it's
all
the
day.
same one.
Yeah.
Runs all day.
You can just keep on using that for text communication.
Gotcha. All right. Next question.
Craig McFarlane from Boston. Any recommendations on good education sources for learning the ATEM Mini Pro and software control beyond the basic features?
Roscoe.
Ripple Training has actually a whole series on it, rippletraining.com, I think, .com. And then there's a lot of good stuff on YouTube, so I wouldn't look past that. And then, one other one was there and it ran away.
Jeffrey?
Come to After Hours and we'll teach you. There's a lot of us that are working on our ATEM minis. Like I'm doing my ZoomISO stuff and learning how that's going to work so I can do a future show or two using it that way. But if you need YouTube, Aaron Parecki is always the go-to for any type of information on that for me.
Alex.
Yeah, Aaron Parecki, as well as Joseph Lanaski, or Photo Joseph. He's been putting out tons of videos about the ATEM. So if you get Ripple, Aaron, and Joseph, and you still have questions about the ATEM, definitely fill it in with After Hours.
And Jonas.
And another one that I would recommend is John Barker did a whole tutorial on the ATEM Mini Extreme. So if you don't know all of those new features, he has 7 videos about those.
Cool. All right. Next question.
Guy Cochran from Seattle, USA, and panelist, what is Kiloview cluster?
Anybody?
We're waiting for Guy to catch the ball. He doesn't know. Kiloview. You don't know what the Kiloview is.
Jonas?
It's really hard to describe, but it is a processing engine or NDI core for the cloud, but also not for the cloud, for basically everywhere. The amount of information that is out right now doesn't correspond with the feature set yet, but what they're building is basically an NDI switcher that allows to switch above the normal NDI switching, which is just network based and not actually taking any load off the ingest and points. And one of the cool features is, if they release it, is it has a lot of backup built in and redundancy, because it's built for in their press material, it's big control rooms that want to route stuff around. So that will be really interesting for the production industry to see an NDI switcher that has seamless switching, which is one of their great features of their NDI core, is that you can, within 1 to 2 frames, switch seamlessly instead of those weird connection issues that you sometimes have if you switch around NDI sources. And it's redundant, backup, and scalable. So they are building it on top of Docker right now. So you can just spin up more if you need more.
I think that was a good explanation, but I don't know what it is. I hope that helped whoever asked the question, or Guy, helped you understand what was going on there. But all right, let's go on to our next question.
And it comes from Douglas Carmichael. He says, is 3210 Studios use an announcer with a British accent in their promotional video, even though they're a US-based company? Why could that be?
Alex?
We should not do that. Anyway, that's because the CEO of 3210 is from the UK. so that's that. It's just the person walking through giving you the tour runs 3210. So that's why that is the case.
Mitchell?
It's cool to have a British accent. It just sort of adds a level of quality that you may not already have in your product. I'm sure Geico could explain volumes why they have a British voice guy. And the other thing, in the movies, they seem to make the British guys the villains for some strange reason. So if I were British, I'd question that.
All right. Next question.
Next question from Matt Cool of Montreal, Quebec. What cool tech type gifts have you found for your favorite tech for the holidays?
Jeffrey?
Well, it depends on what type of tech you're talking about. But if we're talking about the production tech like we are, us geeks, then a good old-fashioned, even a 15-button Stream Deck or even a 6-button Stream Deck is a great, under $100. The 15-button has been under $100 in a lot of special promotions, especially if you get the older version. And it works in so many ways. Other than that, under $100, something like the Elgato Cam Link or any type of capture device for bringing cameras in, because you never know when you need it. I find that I use those capture cards many times, even though I've got higher end capture cards in my computer, because it's just need one extra. So,
Alex?
So since it just said tech and didn't say necessarily video tech or audio tech, the one that I've given in the past, I've given a lot of them, are the Innova sous vide little cookers, because they've become much less expensive, and everybody goes, what is this? And then they use it, and then they use it all the time, and then you get pictures and people are happy and excited about it. The thing that I use it's a little techy, but not necessarily tech itself, is I try not to buy a lot of things for people. I try to figure out how we're going to make things, that are interesting. Photo books are really easy to make online, and they are the most popular thing that I give away. So books of the kids, books of the family, books of whatever that I've taken lots of photos of. I've got thousands of photos, so I can just go through and find stuff. But sending people small photo books of things that they might be interested in is not very expensive, not hard, and oftentimes you'll visit them and see the book sitting on there, sitting out somewhere. Now I don't know, maybe they bring it out because I showed up, but the but I think that it's a really popular thing to do, or really, and we miss it a lot of times.
I'll just add to that the hack. I think I've shared it on here before, but my sister takes pictures of her kids' artwork every year and then makes the photo book and then tosses the macaroni pictures and everything. And she labels the book, the year, and the name of the kid, which kid it is. So like she just has a little library of Snapfish or whoever Shutter, whatever one she uses. But like they're actually really high quality and they're not that expensive to make. And she just does it once a year and she doesn't have any clutter, which is nice.
Genius.
So, I know, right? Guy.
Now that we have the 5013C, I'd love to donate this book right here that I found in the Amazon bookstore. It's called The Story of Marvel Studios, and it is fascinating with all of the behind the scenes, with how, I don't know if you can see these very well, but they have just an immense amount of behind the scenes for all the Marvel movies, and it's all in order. So it's kind of an expensive book, but I would love to be able to chat about some of these pages in after hours. I think it'd be fascinating. It's a $119 book, so I'll buy it for the group and we can chat. So is that a thing where you buy things for yourself? Oh, gosh, that's what happens when I go shopping. Is I'm the tech that buys stuff for myself.
Yeah, I did that this week. I went to a craft fair thing and was only found stuff for myself and had to be really strong not to buy any of it, and was nothing else here is worth it for anybody else. Michael.
Yeah, I really like to go to dealnews.com, and they have daily specials, and I check it every day, and you can find cameras, lenses, patio furniture. Everything is discounted, extremely discounted, and then they have a link or a code, and you can get free 8x10s from Walgreens. You can get all kinds of free stuff, and it's just a great place to go. dealnews.com.
Cool. Check that out. All right. Next question.
Next question from Philip Oler of Katona, New York. Best software for playback on a Mac with ATEM integration.
Got no hands on this?
Okay.
Rasco.
Well, Playout B runs on a Mac, and meaning that there's a version for the Mac, there's a version for the Pi. So that's for an ATEM fully integrated system, certainly. But then you can use the Mac with a dummy head, and well, let me back up. You can use the Mac and scrape the screen with all kinds of stuff. I personally use VLC because I need to build playlists of different student projects, and then I like the fact that I can adjust the volume because students aren't always great on their volume levels with just a flick of the mouse.
Alex?
Yeah, I think that a Playout B, and I would really use, you can do a Mac, but I would go with the Raspberry Pi for a lot of those things just because it's less expensive and you can kind of stack them up. And so I think that I would think about Playout B there. Of course, people will use QuickTime and VLC. And then also as you go higher end from there, you can get into things like using QLab, or also Softrons on the air now supports the HyperDeck protocol. So that's 10-bit with, a lot of, you can do key fills and all kinds of other stuff out of it. And it's, again, it's a lot more expensive.
Peter?
Well, I use a combination of Playout B on a Pi, but I also have Mimo Live again installed that will allow me to do video playback, either full screen or partial screen into the rest of the video that I'm sending out over Zoom and things like that. So, but that's getting into the high-end piece of it because Mimo Live can do lots of things with video.
Jason?
Any trouble with dropping them into Keynote? I've done that a lot. It gives me a little bit of flexibility with choosing the starting and stopping and length point. Of course, it floats up the Keynote, but is there any problem with using Keynote?
Jonas?
To answer the Keynote question, I have seen issues with Keynote playing big files that might be resolved with the M1 as well. The other one that does exist on the ATEM on the Mac that just released is MIDI 2.0, and they do integrate over the USB cable and not only over the HyperDeck protocol, but now also added the HyperDeck protocol.
Alex?
Yeah, and to what Jason said, the controls for playback are horrible in Keynote to use it as a playback system. In fact, the first thing that we do when someone hands us a Keynote or a PowerPoint or whatever, pull all the videos out or get them to send us the videos and put them into a playback system, and then only show slides through the system, and then have a playback system to play out the videos. The frame rates don't work perfectly. There's a whole bunch of things. There's a whole bunch of reasons not to put your videos into your presentation software of any kind.
All right, next question.
Craig McFarlane from Boston. For those with a standing desk, are you mounting your camera to the desk surface or adjusting each time?
Stefan.
Yeah, I mounted my camera to the desk, but you kind of have to consider that the heavier your camera is, that more stable the construction has to be. Otherwise, you get problems with vibrations.
Jeffrey?
So I do not, and the reason why I'm going to show you right now, that's that one. Is right now my camera is actually right next to my confidence monitor, which is about 2.5 feet away from me. It is also on a slider, so I can remote control it from here, moving it back and forth. So, and then of course my sit-stand desk is actually on wheels, and the whole idea is my whole set is pretty much modular, so I can move this out of the way, I can widen out the shot, and then I can actually do like a standing unbox or review of any product that if I need to, and then just wheel this thing right back into spot so I can sit down and do something like office hours.
Yeah, and I have a uplift desk, and it changes and preset the motors and stuff, and when I go to standing I have to readjust the camera, so I do have it mounted to my desk, but once my desk is set up I'm not moving again, and I haven't had a whole lot of issues with vibration for me, but I don't move a lot, so I think it depends on how you're using it. Alex?
Also, a quick note for we definitely have a lot of questions now, for more than we're going to get to now. So you got to ask them earlier in the hour. You have all these questions that you had, and then you brought them up at the end. Try to vote on them so we know which ones you want us to answer before we get to the top of the hour. We almost never connect the camera to the desk. It's just really hard to get rid of vibration. So and it just is super annoying when someone is hitting something and their camera's vibrating. So really think about that hard and really look at it carefully, because you won't notice it sometimes when you're doing it. It's not good. It's not a good look.
Not a good look. Jason?
And so I do have the camera here mounted to my desk, but then for my standing and changing of position for the keyboard and what have you, I got one of those little add-on pieces where you stand with the little extra scissor switch. And that seems to dampen a lot of the movement, I hope. I'll try to see and demonstrate it now. And so when I'm clicking and doing anything with the ATEM or the keyboard, it seems to be isolated, even though they're on the same surface. And then I need to pick up one of those Elgato modular arms, because right now it is really hard to adjust it with the little system that's on now. And I thank the panel for recommending that.
All right, next question.
From Ike Potter in Hanover, Germany. Can Alex Lindsay show one of his keynote presentations, which he regards as good, excellent, or even breathtaking, and which, of course, has no bullet points, so that we can learn how it should look like?
I am working on that. So I'm going to do a video that I'm putting out at the first of the year, and then what I'm going to try to do is for all the Mac breaks starting in 2022, I'm going to do a keynote about it and put it on YouTube. And the reason I'm doing it is because I'm then going to put the keynotes up for people to download. So here's the presentation I did about why I picked that, and here's my keynote related to it. It's a lot of work on my end, but I feel like it'll help me. It'll be a couple slides. The first one's going to be complicated because I got myself into it. So anyway, but and it'll be a video that's largely driven from Keynote. But my goal is to really just publish the keynote, let people download it. The problem I have with all the keynotes that I build is they're all proprietary. They're like for companies and they're under NDAs, and they're all, like that's what I build every day as I build all these keynote files. I build so many keynote files. So anyway, and I may at times, if people ask about it, I'll walk through some of the things that I did, how I'm using play out order and, different things and different transitions and why and everything else. And so we'll post more of that in the future.
All right, next question.
From Douglas Carmichael asking, what could you see as the dvGarage 3D toolkit for today's era, i.e. democratizing and broadening access to an area of the industry that was formerly narrowly accessible?
Alex.
Well, I think that we could build a lot of the same type of training that we did with the 3D toolkit now around the stuff that we're doing here. It was an enormous amount of work. Like the 3D toolkit was, the level of detail that we put into it was way beyond what we could, there was an enormous amount of labor to put those together. They're very labor intensive because what we did is we had basically a picture of what to do, a description of what to do, a why to do it, and then we made a video for every image so that it would show you how to do it. And we've only seen one company do something similar to that in the last 20 years, and that's Heston. Does it for their pans. So anyway, and I arrogantly think they don't do it quite as well as we did 20 years ago, but they're the closest that we've seen to that solution.
Jonas?
I would say the ATEM Mini broadened and democratized the access to broadcast. Like before you needed a big ATEM, now you can have a small ATEM and then suddenly learn on that small ATEM and then scale up to a constellation that might be running in a higher end facility, and also all the software switches. Like as much as OBS doesn't work for most professional applications, it's a great tool to learn stuff and to see about video encoding. How do I make my stream work? How do I make it work for Twitch? And honestly, just being able to stream to YouTube and have YouTube deliver up to 4K video free of charge, that is pretty amazing. As someone who has seen a bill from AWS about like how much it costs to run your own CDN, it's amazing that that is possible and that is free of charge for you.
Alex?
Yeah, and I think that we're going to definitely be identifying as much as we can more opportunities to build lots of little videos as we launch the new channel. I'm going to do a bunch of them, and then we'll just see who else wants to play as far as putting videos up. But I think that we can kind of help build up that by creating a lot of stuff to get started.
Frasco?
I'm going to make a pitch for all the free software that's out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I'm specifically a DaVinci Resolve user, cross-platform, giving those tools that used to literally cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars is amazing.
All right, next question.
Comes from Morgan Price of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. With the new 501c, are we kicking off a podcast? Will it be an office hours replay, Tony Mobley replay, or a new show?
Alex?
I have a lot of ideas around this, and so we'll see what we can get done and see who, we're going to now really start to push for people who want to volunteer to work on stuff and everything else. And so I think that there's an opportunity to publish everything that we do every the 2 hours of office hours, just publishing that out as a podcast makes sense. I think also there's an opportunity to cut one down to an hour, like the best of office hours that week. You could just listen to an hour and listen to some of the best discussions. So I think we're going to try to do a couple of those things.
Very cool. Next question.
Timo Gallegos of Austin, Texas, with a question: does anyone use an HDMI cable with Ethernet? And if so, how do you have it utilize +6?
Jeffrey?
So what I have is my overhead camera is on an HDMI plus Ethernet. So that's the huddle cam up there, and then that goes HDMI goes to the box. You'll see it right on the corner, I believe, right about there. It's hard to see, but yeah, right there. Went a little bit too far, and then that's going through the Ethernet, coming back down. I found it a lot easier to do, so you can actually see my overhead shot, which is right here of my messy desk right now and my ZoomISO setup here. So I've been utilizing it that way. I can also take out the cable really easy and bring it to another area to plug it in. Very important that some of these HDMI to Ethernet adapters won't go over switchers. They have to be direct connects from box to HDMI, so keep that in mind.
All right, next question.
Mark Giuliani from Alexandria, Virginia, with a question: what is the trick to getting the maximum 6K resolution to be available on the record menu on a Blackmagic Design 6K Pro camera?
Alex.
I think you need to have it set to RAW. So you set it to RAW. And the reason we were having this is not because you necessarily need it, but if you set it to RAW, you can't do 6K to ProRes. So you have to set it to RAW on the record. Then you should be able to do 6K. And the reason we asked you to do that is because then you get full frame on the output of the camera. But that's what you need to do to get there, I believe.
Mark?
Yeah, it's set to RAW, but I think it has to do with frames per second. And I remember
What are your frames per second?
when it came. They were at 60 when I turned the camera on.
Oh,
I
yeah,
switched it to 30, and it still didn't make it available. So it's available on the app. It's not available on the back of the camera. The rectangle's there, but it's not lit up. It's almost as if it's grayed out. So
that's odd. I mean, yeah, it can't do 6K. I think it taps out at 50. No, because they're
right.
Anyway, so but I would do, and also I would do 2997, not 30. If you have the, definitely don't use. I mean, in a U.S. environment, I wouldn't use a whole number.
Okay.
Jonas?
One of the things, if you have it currently connected to an ATEM, the ATEM might try to override the frame rate, disconnect it from the ATEM, and then set it to the frame rate that you want to set it at, and then connect it again, because the ATEM can deal with different frame rates than what he wants. But the ATEM sometimes, if he gets what he wants, he will try to talk to the camera and lock it down.
All right, next question.
Nigel DeSaw of Austin, Texas. I am starting to play with ZoomISO and wondered how many video streams I can get from a new MacBook Pro M1 Max.
Alex.
Yeah, this is there's a limitation set by Zoom currently. It's not a technical limitation, but you can't get more than 4 SDI feeds from the, and I don't think that the NDI stuff works in the same way on the Mac. So I think you can get, if you use a Sonnet box with a Blackmagic Duo card, you'll get 4 SDI outputs, but I'm not familiar with, I don't know enough about the NDI as to whether it'll do that. The NDI shouldn't have the same limitations, but I'm not sure exactly what those are on the Mac.
All right, next question.
Rupert McRae from Dallas, Texas. Could corporate headshot photography Belfasted? Unmanned location, remote operators.
Alex.
You probably could. I mean, the problem is that you need a person there to manage it. And usually those headshots are done by a person. so I don't know if it saves you anything. It's something that would be hard to, I think, completely make. You could. I mean, if you had general lighting, you could have something where someone sits up there and someone fires off the photo remotely and makes that work. But usually you need someone around at least that is capable of making adjustments.
TJ?
As somebody who has done lots of corporate headshots, you really have to be there in person instructing, because sometimes it's just the most subtle tilt of the head can make or break a photo. And trying to explain that over a video connection would be very difficult.
Interesting. All right, next question.
From Julian Meinhold in Dortmund, Germany. Does anyone have a recommendation for a USB data hub that has enough power output to charge a 2015 iPad Pro while transferring data?
Mitchell.
Well, I'm a big fan of the OWC product line, Otherworld Computing. They have a whole line that matches just about every situation. But every one of their hubs and docks is very, very overbuilt. So I've had zero problems with them charging or working exactly as advertised.
All right, next question.
From Morgan Price in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Can you set up a Zoom room on any computer? My university, which provides enterprise Zoom, says they can't provide a Zoom room unless I am wiring it into a boardroom.
Rupert.
So there are some caveats to this, which I'll leave to the end. But in theory, you can install Zoom rooms on any computer, providing it meets the minimum requirements and you have the admin privileges to install it. It will need a touchscreen if you want it to have to be able to be controlled locally. Otherwise, you'll need a secondary device as a controller. You can do it on. You can use Zoom rooms on a Windows or Mac, but it does really take over that computer. Rewrites a bunch of stuff and really wants to be have sole access to that. So it's not really something you'd want to do on a everyday use computer. You can also get just the dedicated appliances, which a lot of enterprises will maybe use instead of using a computer. But if you are in an enterprise or institutional kind of environment, you're going to be, needing to operate within their standard configurations of their workflows and the way they manage their, configurations and support. So if that's the way they're saying they need to manage it, that's probably correct in that environment.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, it sounds like what they have is they have the boardrooms ready for any type of computer to hook up, but if you try to hook it up into a different room, it's pretty much tied down to the point. I've dealt with this many times, where if somebody just tried to plug in their computer into an open jack, they're going to get absolutely nothing, and that's by design. So the boardrooms are the ones that they can control, and that's why that they're probably saying that you can only do the Zoom room from there.
All right, next question.
Comes from Kyle Hammond of Chicago, Illinois. First hour question. I have a JBL desktop speaker that I replaced because I had a really bad buzz. I'm curious if it's repairable and or worth it to repair or just more for the landfill.
Michael.
Definitely get it repaired. You're in an area of Chicago where there are millions of people, and just type in speaker repair and on the internet, and you'll find lots of places in Chicago to get that repaired. It's definitely a lot cheaper to get it repaired than getting a brand new, because once you replace one monitor, you're going to want two. So it's definitely worth it to get it repaired.
Yeah, or turn it into a project. Like learn how to repair it yourself or work it with your kids, because just don't put it in the landfill. All right, next question.
From Philip Oler of Katona, New York. Anyone use the web service Bizzabo for virtual video conference, and what has their experience been?
Alex?
I think that within our group, I've kind of noticed that we don't use a lot of the prefab event things. So I think that, I haven't seen almost anybody use a lot of these, and it's mostly because we're really good at customizing Zoom. So I think that that's been the what I've seen so far among our group, is that we kind of want to roll our own solutions as opposed to using something off the shelf. I also think that I haven't used Bizzabo, but almost everything that I've looked at so far has been an attempt to reproduce the physical experience. And I think that that is going to be something that falls away in the next 3 to 5 years. And maybe next year. I mean, I don't think that reproducing the way we did it in the past is going to be the solution to move forward. We're going to be able to do things by the end of next year. We're already doing some of those, what we're doing here, but we're going to be able to do stuff that just leaves the physical world behind, as far as how to do events. And I just don't think we need to keep on trying to make them like the old thing.
All right, next question.
Fred Eric Eckert from Bad Hernau, Germany, has a question. When you use Keynote with 2 displays for presentation and notes view, is there a shortcut to exchange them?
Jason.
So I don't know if there's a keyboard shortcut, but what I've always done is there is that icon in the upper right-hand corner that shows 2 swap screens. And that's how I've always done it.
Alex?
Yeah, you can swap. You can do it that way. I almost always present to window, so I don't let it take over my computer. So I present to window, and then I move the window to where I want it to go, and then I go full screen, and that sets it where I want it to do it. Especially if you're running it through a switcher, you're going to want to have that control. And then I will admit that I don't ever. I know this will sound crazy. I never use notes, so I rehearse it. I rehearse a keynote well enough that I can talk through it, and so I never have any note structures.
All right. And the last question for today.
Last question on Super Saturday, first hour. George Butters from Halifax. What recommendations for playing live video and Keynote during a Zoom presentation? Audio-video sync is often an issue.
Peter.
The answer is don't play it through Keynote. We talked about this earlier. We said use some other method, whether it's Play Out B, or in the case of what I do a lot of times is Memo Live. vMix will let you do it, but go ahead and use some other method for playing the video through at the appropriate time in the Keynote, but not embedded in the Keynote.
Jason?
So I've been playing with the new live video embed on an iPad I take that up to the top of our shark habitat to do virtual tours up there. And because I'm constrained by the iPad, it's just I have to deal with that little lag between my speech and what's showing up because I'm doing video over top of content, showing them the different species that are in the habitat. And I want to have presence on that slide as well. So I've used that live video embed. And I think that's what you're asking in your question there. I haven't found a good solution yet, but people seem to be forgiving of it because of the particular nature of that programming that the call quality isn't always the best when we're out there remotely.
Are they afraid that you're going to send the shark to them?
I'm sorry?
Are they afraid you're going to send the shark to visit if they're not happy?
Maybe that is the hope, to get them engaged as much as possible. We do that with our manatee habitat as well too, and it works out okay. And it's been a game changer for me because then I don't have to fiddle with the little zoom tap between sharing screen and switching back to the cameras. It's been very helpful.
Alex?
Yeah, I think people are pretty forgiving when you start to put those things together. The only time I show videos if they're really short, and it would be very hard for me to switch back and forth to a play out. Anything of any length, more than a minute, I'll generally find some other way to play it out. But if I'm playing out something that's short, like I did a presentation a long time ago about TikTok, it was easy to play the TikTok samples. Just it was, I could jump to them and play through them to talk about something. So it made more sense that way.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the first hour of Super Saturday. Very excited. We did it as always. So we're going to go off of YouTube. So we're going to say goodbye, YouTube.